And today, once again, we are the first to proudly announce, the opening of our IPO, the MIPO, today, Monday, 11th of October. Since 10 a.m. this morning, the Ugandan public is enabled to apply for shares within MTN Uganda. The period is open since this morning, 10 a.m., and the period will close in 6 weeks on Monday, 22nd November in the afternoon. So for the next 6 weeks, all Ugandans will have an opportunity to apply for a stake in this amazing company called MTN Uganda. Now, what is on offer today? Today, the MTN Uganda majority shareholder, MTN South Africa, who is the majority shareholder of MTN Uganda, is offering to the general public 20% of its shares at a value of 200 Uganda shilling per share. In total, MTN will sell 4.5 billion of its shares at a value of 200 Uganda shilling per share. The total number of shares of the company MTN Uganda is 22.5 billion. So 20% of that 22.5 billion, which is 4.5 billion, is now for sale by MTN South Africa to the general public at a value of 200 Uganda shilling per share. So far, the official announcement in terms of the facts and figures that we wanted to share with you this morning. The MTN IPO is hereby officially open. The period is open for the next 6 weeks. Everybody in Uganda can apply to get their share of this beautiful company. I would like to make some further comments around the objectives of what we're trying to achieve with opening this offer to the general public today. There's one word that comes on top of my mind on everything that we are doing in the next few weeks, is democratization of access to the stock exchange. Yes, our broadband policy, telecom broadband policy, obliges us to list 20% of the company by June 2022, but much more than an obligation, this is an opportunity. And it is an opportunity to democratize the stock market for Uganda, for Ugandans in Uganda. It is affordable in the sense that the minimum quantity of shares that one can apply for, the minimum quantity for shares that one can apply for is 500 shares, which means for as low as 100,000 Uganda shilling, one can apply to become a shareholder in this company. 500 shares is the minimum quantity, which means 100,000 shilling, you become a shareholder. You become part of the story, the success of MTN Uganda. It is also accessible because a few weeks ago, in partnership with the USC, with the approvals of the CMA, we have opened a MIPO platform that by means of USSD or via the MTN Mobile Money app, you can open your SCD account, and now since this morning 10 a.m. you can also apply for MTN shares using your phone via USSD and using the mobile money app, also via your phone. Of course, there are other channels like the Easy Portal or the more traditional paper applications through your brokers that are also available and that can also give you access to apply for shares within MTN Uganda. On top of that, we have 250 outlets countrywide, from Kisoro to Arua to Busia, all the way from the southwest to the north to the east. Countrywide, there are 250 outlets, MTN outlets, together with all the outlets, branches, if you want, of Stanbic Bank across the country. In total, there are 250. For customers or for investors who would not be familiar or comfortable to use the phone, the MIPO, or for whatever other reason, they can get further assistance in those 250 outlets countrywide, the MTN Service Center footprint, and the Stanbic Bank branches across the entire country. So it is accessible. And that is the spirit of the broadband policy, where we wanted to achieve localization through listing. We wanted to make sure that as many as possible Ugandans can get access to applying for a share in MTN Uganda. On top of that, we have also put in place incentives. When using the MIPO platform for applying for MTN Uganda shares, you will get 10 bonus shares for every 100 shares you apply for. So you will apply and pay for 1,000 shares, you will get an additional 100 bonus shares. 10 for every 100. If you would not be able to use the MIPO, you would still get 5 bonus shares for every 100 you apply for. But if you use the phone, you will get 10 for every 100. Using the more traditional channels or the Easy Portal on the USC or through your broker, you will still get 5 bonus shares for every 100. If you use your phone, yourself or with assistance from our broker staff in the 250 outlets, you will benefit from 10 bonus shares for every 100 you apply for. Then last but not least, very important to note, is that when it comes to the allocation of the shares, we have a Uganda First policy that has been described in all detail in the prospectus, which is available on our website, has been published earlier this morning. The Uganda First allotment, allocation policy in terms of the shares is very important when it comes to possible oversubscription. If the demand for the shares would be higher than the offers or the amount of shares available in the offer, then we have defined and we will apply an allotment and allocation policy, which the details are in the prospectus, but it is a Uganda First policy, where everybody who applies, independent free from the channel you use, you will be guaranteed as a Ugandan that at least the absolute minimum that you are guaranteed for, 5 million shilling, in case that there would be oversubscription, So that, the details, I'll leave it up to my colleagues or my advisors from Stanbic and SBG to take you through those details. But the spirit of the allotment and the allocation policy is the Uganda First policy that we will implement. Something important maybe for all of us who might not be so familiar with the dynamics of an IPO, from today, 11th of October, all the way until Monday, 22nd of November, everybody who will apply or applies will be treated equally. So it is not a first-come, first-served policy. The period opens today and will close in 6 weeks' time. There's no point rushing and running to your phone and say, I want to be the first today. You can be the first, please do. If you would want to, you're free, the system is open, the brokers are there, you can apply. But the application made by anybody on the 22nd of November at 3 p.m. will be given the same consideration as any application made today at 11 a.m. So it is not first come, first serve. Everybody who applies, there will be a certain allocation, allotment policy that will be applied equally across the board. I would also want to invite all potential investors to read what is called the prospectus, in which all the details of the offer and the company is being defined and described. Once again, I will pass on to my colleagues to take you through more of the details around the mechanism of how it works. And we are not just going to end on this note, we are also going to engage and interact through our brokers with as many Ugandans as possible. We have organized 200 town hall roadshows, physical interactions between the management of MTN Uganda, Andrew, the CFO, Init, Company Secretary, and others will engage face-to-face with as many as a few thousand potential investors, for which we are organizing 200 physical town halls roadshows. 125 will happen in Kampala, 75 will happen up-country, in more than 50 cities up-country. I don't know if all of them are officially cities, but towns. Now it's becoming a hot debate, who's a city and who's not a city, so let me call them towns. But of course all the cities will be visited. In more than 50 up-country towns, we will be present to interact and give an opportunity to potential investors to hear us out, that we can tell about the company, of course under the supervision of our brokers, and create an opportunity for everybody who wishes to hear from the management of the company themselves and their brokers on this opportunity to invest. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like once again thank all the parties, our advisors, lawyers, brokers involved, regulators involved in the process of making this happening today. 11th of October 2021, 10 a.m. is a key milestone in the history of MTN Uganda. We are going public. Uganda is our home, and it will remain our home, and it will even become more our home as and when in a few weeks' time we will have the honor and pleasure to be actually listed, as and when the period is closed in the next few weeks. The date that we have planned for until further notice, but the day of the actual listing on the stock exchange, after all the shares have been allocated, will be 6th of December 2021. That's the day, as per the timetable, that we will actually be listed on the stock exchange, and then other investors will have an opportunity now to start trading in our shares. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great pleasure. We have brought Uganda home, and we are looking forward to the next few weeks. I would like to pass the mic to Anne, CEO of Standard Bank Uganda, our trusted partners in this process, who can take you through further details of this exciting day in the history of our company, in the history of the Uganda Securities Exchange, and in the history of our country. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Wim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start, please join me in congratulating Wim and giving him a big hand clap. Not just to him, but to all the staff members of MTN Uganda, both local and international. It is indeed a historic day today for us all. Before I go into my remarks, which will be to reiterate what Wim has said, I'd like to recognize the Chief Executive Officer of the Capital Markets Authority, on whose authority we stand here today. The Managing Director, yes, the Managing Director of the Uganda Securities Exchange, Mr. Paul Wiso, on whose guidance and support we're here today. Our legal advisors, a partner from Sevalu and Lule, Gertrude. His loud and consistent counsel has helped us through this process. To you, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, and all Ugandans back home, welcome to what is a truly, truly historic day today. And it falls on me to share with you the historic the technical details of this historic IPO. It is special in many ways, not just from the fact that this is a company that started here in 1998. Many of us have lives weaved in the MTN story. Many of our critical life moments have an MTN story as part of it. So it really is home, and it's very befitting to say that Uganda is home, and we welcome you to this today. Being the technical advisors, you will allow me to take you through process by process. That phrase has been robbed completely, but allow me to take you through in a systematic manner. A lot of what I'm going to say, Wim has already said, but allow me to repeat and reiterate some of the salient features of this IPO. And you may remember last week on Tuesday when we had a similar function, it fell on me to tell you what not to ask. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of telling you everything is on the table. Ask as much as you can, and feel free to get into the detail of what we need to. Your role is to inform your viewers out there and all Ugandans at large, so please feel free to ask the questions. So I'll take you from the top, and if you've already had the information, please bear with me, but it's important that we reiterate the details. So the company on offer is MTN Uganda Limited. It's in the telecom sector, obviously. The offer type is the initial public offer by way of sale of 20% of existing ordinary shares, which we'll from here on call the offer. The selling shareholder, this is important, the selling shareholder is MTN International, which is a wholly subsidiary of MTN Group out of Mauritius. The listing, we will be listing on the main market segment of the Uganda Securities Exchange. As you know, there are different segments. We will be taking this to the main market segment. Are there selling restrictions, you may ask? The answer is yes. This offer is only available in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. There are no other jurisdictions where MTN Uganda shares will be selling. The number of shares on offer is 4,477,808,848 shares with a par value of 1 shilling per share. The offer price has been set at 200 Uganda shillings per share. 200 Uganda shillings per share. And the offer size, which is 20% of that, is 895,561,676,600 shares. I will say that number again. This is the Uganda shilling value. This is the amount of money that we're looking to issue out. It is 895 billion 561,769,600. If you convert that at an exchange rate of 35.50, you will land at 250 million US dollars. There has been some confusion in the past about what that size is, and we've had premature newspapers going out. I want to reiterate that the offer is $250 million, which when converted at an exchange rate of 550, you come out with 895,561,769,600. The market capitalization of the offer price, as I mentioned already, is 4.4 billion. Now I want to talk you through the offer period and what happens. Again, process by process. We started today, as Wim has informed us, at 10 o'clock a.m. We opened the prospectus. We will be open for 6 weeks, and at 4 p.m. on the 22nd of November 2021, the offer will close. So Ugandans out there, we have between now at 10 o'clock this morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon of the 22nd of November to close the offer. Thereafter, on the 3rd of December at 4 p.m. in the evening, we will make an allocation announcement. We will tell you who has gotten what, and then at that time we'll also disclose the subscription details. We will list MTN Uganda on the 6th of December at 12 o'clock midday. I will repeat this. We offered today at 10 a.m. in the morning, we opened. We will close at 4 o'clock on the 22nd of November, and we will announce allocation on the 3rd of December at 4 p.m. and we will list on the 6th of December at 12 p.m. The minimum price, the minimum number of shares you can buy is 500. So 500 shares times 200, which is the cost of each price, you get to 100,000. This offer is truly for every Ugandan out there, that for as little as 100,000 Uganda shillings, you have a chance to be a shareholder in MTN Uganda. You cross immediately from being a subscriber to being an owner of MTN Uganda for as little as 100,000. The transaction advisor and lead sponsoring broker is SBG Securities, and the use of proceeds, which is very important as well to mention, that all proceeds of the offer, net of the related expenses, will accrue to the selling shareholder, who is MTN International. Should you wish to obtain a copy of the prospectus, which I advise that you do, please go on to the MTN website. It's already uploaded and available for your use. Some of the important and unique features of this offer is the fact that it is a green offer. We are trying as much as possible to protect the environment and keep this offer E. And therefore, we have made sure that it is available even on the simplest of phones. Using USSD, you can open an ACD account and you can buy your shares. And it's not only that, you can also, for doing that, for using your phone, you get an incentive. You get additional bonus shares, which I'll take you through. But before I do that, I also wish to reiterate a few things. That for you to receive the shares on offer, you must have an ACD account. So please log on to the MIPO or the Easy Port on the exchange to be able to get an ACD account. An ACD account is the account on where your shares are held. We no longer give share certificates. Thanks to Mr. Buiso's innovations, we don't have paper share certificates anymore. Everything is virtual. It's very important. And before I take you through the incentives, I want to talk about the allocation policy, which is important. Wim has said it, I will reiterate it. This is a Uganda first, and it will be a waterfall. So we will start with Uganda individual retail subscribers. So any Ugandan in your own capacity, you transition from being a subscriber or a supporter of MTN into being an owner. You ought to feel good, and we will give you first priority. The second part of that is for Ugandan professional investors. Again, Uganda first. We will start with Uganda individuals and go into Uganda professional investors. This is where all the circles lie. This is where all the investors and the companies lie. From there, we are remaining true to our East African principles, and we will open that to applicants from the East African Community Partner States, who will also be given a privilege. So it's a waterfall. Individuals first, Ugandan individuals first, Ugandan investors second, East African individuals, and then East African companies, and after that, we will open to foreign investors. In case of an oversubscription, we will allot Ugandan individuals first up to 5 million shillings, and after that, it will be pro rata. To reiterate the incentives, Wim has already mentioned that for all Ugandan and East African retail investors, plus East African professional investors, if you're applying a minimum, you get 5 incentive shares for every 100 shares. Those are for professionals. And then for eligible MTN customers applying through the MIPO platform and paying with MTN mobile money, you will receive an additional 5 incentive shares for every 100 shares allocated. I think we know where people are going to go on this one. And then over and above that, for Ugandan and East African professional investors applying for a minimum of Uganda shillings 177 billion, you will receive 10 incentive shares for every 100 sale shares allocated. So that is in all the details of the offer. Before I hand you over to Joram, I want to pick up on a point that Wim left about being equal, that you can subscribe today or you can wait until 3:59 on the 22nd of November. You have equal rights. But I want to encourage you to do it early and start the process early. You don't lose anything. It's just for good order's sake. The earlier you do, the better, and it's easier for those of us who are going to be in the process. Yeah. So it's not a first come, first serve, but it is for good order's sake. If you have made a decision to invest, the earlier you do, the better. I want to move you now to hand you over to Joram Ongura, who is the Chief Executive of our SVG Securities, to take you through the brokerage part of the IPO and where we will be doing this, where you can go to get your shares, to buy your shares. Joram, over to you.
Thank you, Juan. I'm here to take you through the application process. And the key thing is to say how to open an SCD, how to buy shares, and how to apply using your Momo account. All right, just 1 second. First, you need to have created your Security Central Depository account, abbreviated as SCD. This is the share account for those of you. But let's remind ourselves, how do you do that?
Hello. Today we are going to talk about how to invest money through the stock market. Now, when you want to buy shares in any company, you have to go to a market called the Uganda Securities Exchange. And here you will find people that are authorized to help you buy or sell any of those company shares. And these people are called stockbrokers. And anyone who wants to buy or sell shares in any of those companies in this market has to go through these stockbrokers. Now, when you buy your shares, they're kept in an account called an SCD account or Securities Central Depository account. But this is not a bank account. No. This one is a special type of account that is created specifically for keeping your shares. You don't need to go anywhere to open this account. You can even do it right now on your phone. Let me show you. Dial *165*65#. Then select option 1 to apply for SCD account. Enter your national ID number. select your preferred broker, enter 1 to accept the terms and conditions, and finally, enter your mobile money PIN. You will then receive a confirmation by SMS with your new SCD account number. That's it, and it's free of charge. Once you have your SCD account, you are ready to start buying and selling shares using your selected stockbroker. And oh, by the way, you can also open this SCD account using my MTN app on your smartphone.
Now, here is how you apply for an SCD account. Step 1, dial star 165 star 65. Step 2 is to apply for the MTN shares. Once you've dialed star 165, you get a response that would ideally locate you to the Uganda Securities Exchange page, where you select option 1, apply for SCD shares. Option 2, apply for the MTN shares. Step 3, here is just for you to confirm that you've actually been able to see the prospectus and accept the terms and conditions, and you're applying either for self, which is 1, and then 2 is for if you're buying for somebody else. The last one we have there under step 3 is 0, which ideally takes you back to the previous page. If you went to next slide is step 4, you'd ideally come to select your specific broker. This is the broker, the one you selected at the time of opening up. What's the specific broker you select at the time of opening up your SCD or shares account? Step 5, you select the number of shares you'd like to apply for. Of course, number 1, the minimum, which is 500 shares, is also highlighted there. And then based on how much you like to buy, you go through that process. Step 6 is for you to actually confirm that you're actually making the purchase, is for you to put your mobile money PIN or Momo PIN, and your application would go through. And then the other step 7, here you'd ideally be you'd confirm that you've read the MTN IPO prospectus and accept the terms and conditions. 1 is yes, 2 is no, and if you said 2, the next stage for you to say you've actually cancelled your transaction. There'll be a confirmation that you've actually cancelled your transaction. Step 9, you have gone through you've made the application, you've put in your mobile money password. You'd get a notification. You get a notification, SMS notification. I would say 2 text messages. 1 saying you have successfully applied for 100 shares in the IPO, and to provide you an application ID. The other text you would receive is you have applied for 100 shares at whatever month you've applied in, and then that's a confirmation, which will basically also provide your details for your bonus shares from the allotment. For your assistance, visit NS MTN Service Center or Stanbic Bank branches countrywide, or a licensed stockbroker. You can also find more information and a copy of the prospectus at www.mtn.co.ug//investors. And that's it. It's that easy. Thank you. The MTN offer of shares to the public is approved by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. This advertisement is issued on MTN's behalf by SBG Securities, the lead sponsoring broker for the MTN IPO. Please note, share prices can go up or down. Terms and conditions apply. MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to add that over and above SBG Securities, there are other brokers who are involved in this transaction. That's Dare and Blair and Crested Stocks, all of whom are available to assist you should you need anything in this process. Thank you.
Thanks, and maybe I would also want to add on top of what Joram has explained is that the whole process of using the MIPO is free of charge. Okay, so there are no charges that MTN nor the USE will apply when you apply for your shares. So it is free of charge on the USSD as also on the app. There are no charges involved. Even in the case of a partial refund and oversubscription, there are no charges involved. I speak under the authority of my new regulator, so it is free of charge. Even if you buy for or apply for 100,000 shilling, there are no charges that will be applied, nor by the USC nor by MTN, to take from your initial application.
Thank you very much. I'll now ask Paul from Stanbic Bank to take over from here on.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Mugana. I work with Stanbic/SBG in capacity as transaction advisor. My role here today is to facilitate a Q&A session. We have about 20 minutes. I encourage you all to pose your questions. We've given you a lot of information, quite a bit to absorb, and so we appreciate that we might need to decipher this a little bit, right? Every member on the podium is available. If you have a question that's specific to a member, please advise accordingly. As we walk through the questions, please introduce yourself, your name, the media house you represent.
Hello?
Do we have the roaming mic?
I'm Paul Busharizi, the New Vision. I just wanted to be clear. We're selling 4.5 billion shares. Is this inclusive of the bonus shares, or what does that mean? So maybe clarity on that. And secondly, I noticed in the prospectus that the issue is not being underwritten, which, well, in my experience is unusual. What does that mean, if anything at all?
Okay. I'll attempt to respond to those two questions, and if anybody else wants to add, please feel free. So on the issue of underwriting, underwriting ultimately is a decision for the issuer based on advice from the transaction advisor, right? It's not an absolute must or necessity. So considering the transaction dynamics, a call was made not to explicitly underwrite this transaction. But a significant amount of what we call market sounding has been done, engaging investors to understand their considerations and their appetite. The 4.5 billion shares represents the total shares available, including sale shares and bonus shares. Anything else to add? Okay. Next question.
Abubakar Mwange from China Global Television. Question 1 to Anne. Stanbic has been on the bourse for a while. How has it been for Stanbic? And what does MTN's addition mean to the stock exchange? Then 2, what message do you give to other companies that are hesitant to list? Thank you so much.
Ideally, that question would go to Mr. Andrew Mashanda, who is the chief executive of the company that is listed. But I'll attempt. So as you know, Stanbic Uganda listed back in May 2007. It was partly in partial fulfillment of our purchase condition when we took over Uganda Commercial Bank. But also, like Wim said, it was an obligation that we've turned into an opportunity. For us, from 2007 to date, it has been a privilege and an honor to be on the stock exchange. We learn a lot. Being on the stock exchange raises your governance standards to a level that you would not ordinarily do on your own. So being able to do that is important. But more importantly, the aspect of shared value. that we are a Ugandan company working and creating value in Uganda, and it is very important that that value is shared by Ugandans. And that is the most important part, why we would encourage all other entities to list on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Whatever value we create, as you know, is we are 20% listed on the stock exchange, and that value is shared by over 25,000 Ugandans who are active shareholders today. So that's the most important part, and we would encourage anybody else who's working here and creating value to share in. It is the best way to do business. It is a sustainable way to do business.
Thank you, Anne.
Yes. Oni?
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Ali Twaha and I work with New Vision. Just two questions. For an investor who's looking up to buy some shares, I would want you to take us through some of the risks they face. We've seen new policies come into play regarding, we have the national payment system and all the regulatory aspect happening. They would want to know, or it's already highlighted in the prospectus, but for someone who can't read, kindly take them through some of those. The other question is, why is MTN selling at 6 times its value? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think let's start with the question on risks. As a company goes to the market, it's important to remember two things. One, there are factors that it has control over, and number two, there are factors that it doesn't. The market price of a company, once it's listed, is determined by the market, right? And the market usually makes that decision on pricing based on the performance of the company itself, but there are also macroeconomic conditions and factors that need to be taken into consideration. So in responding to this question and highlighting risks, it's important to distinguish between what the company has control over and what is in the control of the market. Right? The disclosures are quite elaborate in the prospectus and dive into a significant amount of detail. And once again, we encourage everybody to take the opportunity to read the prospectus. But for those that are unable to read the prospectus, our recommendation is have a conversation with a broker who is licensed and has a requisite experience to be able to highlight the risks in the appropriate context. Right? So really the summarized response to that is the disclosures are very elaborate, and we'd recommend that you engage a professional, i.e. the brokers, to get that information. Wim, there was a query on the impact of the new regulations and the NPS Act. Would you like to just give some context?
Yeah, sure. So the new regulations on the NPS, which is from a year ago, September 2020, the new NPS Act, I think it was the 4th of September, that the President signed it. That's actually a very good thing, because they create more clarity and more transparency in the way we run our mobile money businesses. Very important for the investors. Now I'm talking to my potential investors, not just my customers. To potential investors is to understand that the mobile money company is an entire part of the listed company that we bring to the stock exchange. Okay, so investing in MTN Uganda also means that you're still investing in the mobile money company, and you still will benefit also from the economic, uplift of the mobile money activity within MTN Uganda. Okay, we have seen it in the past. In 2019, the UCC, the Ministry of ICT, also issued the new broadband policy in 2018, and then new regulations in 2019. It is a good thing, because regulations sometimes have tendency to be behind the curve. So it's a very good thing that the new regulations came into force in 2019 when it comes to telecom, and also these new regulations coming into force last year when it comes to mobile money. It creates a lot of transparency, visibility, and that's what investors want. They want to have visibility on how the regulatory framework is shaping, and we are very, thankful to Bank of Uganda that those new regulations are clear, and they have allowed us now to operate in a new framework that creates the necessary visibility for us and for other investors when it comes to running the mobile money activity.
Thank you, Will. Ali, satisfied? Yeah, so I think let me respond in context of how we look at valuation. The total value of this company, based on the share price of 200 shillings, right, is 4.5 trillion shillings. What is on offer is 20% of that, which is 895 billion. There's a multitude of ways of looking at value. You have made reference to a multiple, and to provide you with a satisfactory response, I would like to understand what multiple specifically. But I think the key takeaway for the general public is the absolute numbers, right? It is 895 billion shillings that is on offer, based on a total valuation of 4.5 billion. Sorry, trillion, my apologies. And why we insist on having a conversation with brokers for the general public to understand and appreciate this value is that they can give you context on peer valuations, companies with a similar profile, companies in the industry across the continent, and that can give you a good sense for where the value lies in this company and whether what has been put on the market today is reasonable. Obviously, as transaction advisor, our view is it's very fair value for the quality and the nature of the company that's on offer today.
My name is Kabona Esiaram from the East African. I don't know whether I'm jumping before. In some operations, usually at IPO level, we would know what the allotment for retail investors going to be, what is going to the institutional investors. Juko, am I jumping the bridge before? I want to be advised. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kabona from the East African. At this point in time, there is no percentage allocation given. What we can share with you is the allocation principles. And the issuer has been very elaborate in saying Uganda first. So we'll be those are the principles that will guide what the ultimate allocation will be. Mr. Kabona, I'm happy to reiterate that allocation policy, that Ugandan individuals will be given first priority, followed by Ugandan professional investors, before we go to East African individuals, and then East African professional investors, and then on to the foreign companies. I hope that clarifies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Mildred Haise. I work with Next Media Services, NBS particularly. It's for everyone, like it's been said. And the minimum is 100,000 shillings. Open from today till the last date. For a Ugandan who is purchasing, it's not first come, first serve as it said, but you can buy between that time. I probably have 100,000 shillings today and I want to start early. And then I get another maybe 2 million shillings along the way and I want to add up, or another 100,000 once again. Am I able to purchase shares more than once? And I also saw, while John was presenting, I saw an option of buying for another. Can I buy for another person, whichever percentage? How does then the management of the shares come through? And while opening do I use my SCD? Do I open them an SCD? And is that SCD account, attached to my number as the person who is purchasing, or it's just an open one?
Take the first part, and then Joram will come to the second part.
Thank you for that question. I want to clarify that when you use the MIPO, okay, you can open your SCD account, yes, and then the second option is actually to apply and pay for your shares. Okay, there is a restriction on the mobile money platform that you cannot make payments above 5 million on a daily basis. So today you can apply and pay for 5. Tomorrow you can apply and pay again for 5. And the day after tomorrow, and for every day all the way until the 22nd of November. So theoretically speaking, for the next 42 days, you can apply and pay every day for 5 million shilling. Okay. There is a restriction on the 5 million for daily transaction, but there is no restriction, I think we need to emphasize that, there is no restriction for the number of times you apply, as long as, you know, the system will allow you for 5 million. If you want to buy for more than 200 or 300 million, there are other channels through the more traditional brokers that are there who can accompany you. But theoretically speaking, you can do 42 times 5 million from now until the 22nd of November, every day via your phone.
Thank you, Wim. Yes, you can actually make the application for yourself and then also buy shares for somebody you would nominate. Ideally, the requirement is you must have an SCD if you're buying for yourself, but also the person you want to buy for must also have an SCD account. Yes, and the key requirements you would require for is to say, one, you must have their SCD details for you to actually make the application on their behalf. And then at the point of assuming there is an oversubscription at the point of refund, the refunds ideally would go to that actual person you nominated at the time of the application. Thank you.
Is that clear, Mildred? Yes. All right. Next question.
Good morning. I'm Gerald Paul Sonko from Smart 24 TV, and my question is about the registration and what. Mainly, we all know we do have some people. This is actually going to WIM. We do have some subscribers with MTN that have registered their SIM cards with other people's national IDs. Issues I don't want to engage into. But now, in a situation of actually purchasing a share, and I'm purchasing it, and my SIM card is not registered in my name, how are you going to follow up on my issue with the shares? Because basically, it is actually me who is opening it up, but the national ID isn't mine. So so if at all you can actually clarify more on that.
Okay, so in the prospectus we have clearly defined that the MIPO is accessible for eligible MTN customers. Now, what does that mean? It means that you have to have your SIM card registered using your national ID, which comes with fingerprint verification as per the UCC standards. Okay. So per definition, when you buy a SIM card today, you have to show your national ID. You have to go for a fingerprint biometric verification that you are the genuine owner of that same national ID, and then you get a SIM card. That information is what we pass on to the USC, who uses that same national ID and biometrically verified in their database as the true owner of the SCD account. Okay? So what you are saying, the theoretical example of, you have a SIM card that is registered in somebody else's name, you should go to a MTN service center and have your SIM card details upgraded or corrected so that they reflect your national ID with your fingerprint.
Sometimes it's actually a long procedure. That is why you definitely find
it's a 1 minute procedure. You go to any.
You may find that someone is actually having over 4 SIM cards registered in their name.
I think the UCC regulations are very clear. Okay, a SIM card is to be registered by the true owner. Okay, so you have, as an individual, the obligation to make sure that the SIM cards that are registered against your name are yours. If that would not be the case, our MTN service centers for the last few years are available, are open. If there would be any SIM card that is not yours, you can go have them deregistered, or SIM cards that would be yours that are not registered with your national ID, you can go again to the service center and have them upgraded, have them, modified so that they are registered against your national ID, verified with your finger, not somebody else's finger. So in case that there are some customers, it's true that, have registration of their SIM card from many years ago that were using a passport, and then they send the NIN on the database. Those customers that have not registered their SIM card with the national ID are hereby invited to go to the MTN service center with their national ID and have their registration upgraded using their national ID. They are fully compliant because we have their NIN, but for the purposes of USC, they need to be registered using the national ID. Is that clear? Okay, thank you. It is a very important question that I do sympathize with the practical considerations that customers might face. Our service centers are available, and they will make sure that the right SIM card is registered against your national ID.
Okay. So, we have a little bit of time left. If there are any other queries, please.
Okay, 200 shillings per share is very tempting. So if I get excited and I buy shares, then after a few hours I realize I don't have milk for my daughter, is there a possibility, dear MTN, for me to cancel my purchase? Or if I have bought 500 shares and I may be reduced to 300, can MTN be able to refund and I cancel the shares I have bought to solve the issues, for my personal issue for now, and maybe buy later? Question number 2 for USE. What does this MTN IPO mean to Uganda's stock exchange? Thank you so much.
Thank you. You never did mention your media house, but you raise a very interesting question, and we laugh about it, but it is true. There's 6 weeks within which something could happen and you want your money back. First is to clarify that for you to be considered to be fully subscribed, you have to pay for the shares. At a retail level, you must pay in cash. And unfortunately for you, sir, once an application is received, we will not be able to refund. We take that in. However, when we list the shares on the 6th of December at 12 o'clock, you're able to sell immediately. And whatever they will, if there is demand, you're able to then go through the actual sale process. I hope that clarifies that you only buy the share in cash, and once you have put in once you've put in the bid, there is no refunds, there is no takebacks until we have allocated and listed, and at the point of listing, you can then sell your share at any point in time after we have listed. Does that clarify? Thank you.
There was a second question for the USE. Paul, would you like to take that? No, sir, you are here, sir. We have to recognize and appreciate your insight. Is the mic? Actually, you know what? You can come here.
Okay, thank you. What does this mean for the USC? I think the figures that have been put out there in terms of market capitalization. Currently, the market capitalization at the exchange for the 9 local listed companies is about 3.9 trillion. It's been mentioned when MTN comes on board on 6th of December, another 4.5 trillion will be added to the market cap. That would be ideally doubling the market capitalization. That is one of the benefits we'll have. The second, there's a new sector being introduced onto the stock exchange, that's the telecom. So it provides diversification for investors to be able to invest in a new market segment, in a new company and a new sector within the economy. The third, it will give an opportunity for the Ugandans to save for the future, and we'll see more investors coming on board because of the simplicity of the MIPO. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. There's a question in the back. Oh, sorry, there are a few here in front. For those in the back, if you have a query, I encourage you to come forward.
Good morning. My name is Nasari Fatia. I work with NBS Television. All MTN customers would love to own shares in MTN, but the language we talk about stocks, people do not understand it. As MTN, what initiatives are you going to use to see that people understand this? That when I put there my 100,000, I'll get this in return.
Hello. Hello, thank you for that question. So what we'll do, like we mentioned, we're going to spend enough time moving around the countryside to try and explain it in very simple language that, if you invest, what will you get? So, you're right, when you talk of shares, not everyone understands it. There are two simple, I would say, examples I can give. Obviously, if you invest in shares and the company declares a dividend at the end of the year or during the year, when there are interim dividends declared, you will get dividends and share the profits. So what we are telling our customers that apart from being a customer, you are now a shareholder, and you are investing in what you are using and what you're eating. So it's, I would say, easy to relate to. The second you would say is, what is the value of the price today? We're saying 200 shillings. If that value increases in the outer years, when you sell, it's like you buy land today and after a few years the value has increased, you still get that increase in equity. So I would say from a simple basic way, those are the two, way to say on why should you invest and what does it mean. Thank you.
May I just add something there as transaction advisors? That one, I think your question was in relation to language, right? We will have, Wim spoke about it, over 200 engagements, and some of those will be in local language to break down the information so that people understand it. Issues of money are very emotive issues. We must explain them to people in a language they understand. We're putting the share at a price they can afford. It must be in a language they understand. So there will be several town halls across the entire country. If you go to Moroto, we will find somebody who can talk to people there. In Barara, don't know if Wim has learned from Nyankode yet, but I've heard his Luganda already there. Yeah, but I also wanted to make a technical conversation that the price of the share, Paul advised us earlier, is determined by the market. Yeah, so when Mr. Bugembe says the price will go up and you get value, there are no guarantees. The market forces will interact and determine that price. Share prices go up and they come down. There are no guarantees as to the fact that it's going to go up and all arrows will point north. It is a function of the market forces. But if you do, and that's why we take the time in the prospectus to give extensive disclosures about the entity, the quality of the entity, the governance, the management, the prospects, so that when you read, and I really want to encourage you to read the prospectus, you make an informed decision because you will have seen. You will have read the MTN history, you will have seen a picture they paint of the future, and that's what you're buying into. I think it's very important for your viewers, Madame Nasali, to distinguish that. And when we do talk to them in the town halls, we will find ways to break down the information in a language they understand. I hope that clarifies.
If I may add, there's also going to be an additional communication campaign starting tomorrow. I think I speak on the control of Somdev, our marketing manager, where you see the lady Jane, and she's going to go into a few new episodes trying to explain further, as you say, breaking it down into language that people understand. So we are going to have 6 weeks of additional campaigning with answers and questions, and we will try to educate and make understandable what this really means. Of course, always under the control of our advisors and the brokers. Investing in shares comes with risk, and we also will emphasize the risk profile of such an investment for everybody.
This is Carbon again from the East African. A bit of clarification. We are talking about roadshows. You are concentrating in Uganda, yet you're also targeting East Africans and foreign investors to tap into this stock. Are we going to see you going to Nairobi, those other cities, those other East African countries that are going to sell to? And also maybe, are you going to hold roadshows in London too? Getting at times the CEOs is a very tough issue. From here you might go for a meeting. Who is the communications firm that we might need to deal with? Thirdly, to Timothy, two other national telecom operators were required to also list. When are we seeing the other two according to your timetable? Thank you very much.
By Timothy, do you mean? But I think the question of when the others are going to come is a little premature. And we will defer that to the UCC, who's in charge of implementing the national broadband policy. We will not be able to use this platform to do that. Paul, we're going to do a lot of virtual engagements.
Yeah, so the query on roadshows, I think what is important to take away from this session is that Ugandans come first. And so a significant amount of capacity of the management team, transaction advisors, and the brokers is going to be spent on roadshows in country, right? That is not to the exclusion of some select roadshows outside Uganda, but majority of the capacity is going to be focused on Uganda.
And we will have a few virtual engagements, which people outside of Uganda will be invited to have a conversation on this nature.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Isaac Kisa. I work with Independent Magazine. I have two questions to the MTN CEO. One, for obvious reasons, I know that when a company is raising money, the reason is it wants probably to invest in another area or to further its growth. So with this $200 million that you intend to raise, what are you going to do with that money? Where are you investing in order to further grow MTN as a company? Two, where are the growth opportunities for MTN Uganda as you raise this money? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. So as the advisor clearly explained, the selling shareholder MTN International Mauritius is the one selling the 20% of its shares in the company, and all the proceeds of the sale of the shares are going back to the selling shareholder. Of course, after deduction of all necessary expenses and applicable taxes. Now, as a company, MTN Uganda is investing, my vice president announced that last week on Tuesday, as a company, MTN Uganda, we are investing more than $300 million in the next 3 years, which will mainly go through the expansion of our network. We're adding almost 1,000 new sites in the next few years, also to fulfill, of course, our obligations of the NTO, where we have obligation. The same way that the listing was an obligation of our new license, we have other obligations, one of them being nationwide 90% landmass coverage. So we have already embarked and started on that, and we're continuing to invest $300 million as a company to further expand the footprint of our network. And of course, the growth opportunities are the two main growth opportunities that we see in the company. My advisors will correct me if I say things that I'm not allowed to, but the growth opportunities in the next few years is one, mobile money, fintech. There's an amazing opportunity when it comes to the fintech, the mobile money activity. We are further going to launch products and services, what we call bank tech, saving, lending, payments, Momo Pay. We're going to promote the Momo Pay functionality big time in the next few months and years to come. So there is an amazing growth opportunity ahead of us when it comes to mobile money. And then the second growth opportunity for sure is about mobile data. We're still having a relatively low penetration. We only have about 30% of our customers who actually have a smartphone that actually use mobile data on a regular basis. It's relatively small compared to some other markets, some other countries. So the second major growth opportunity for us is mobile data. We really look forward in building more network, building more capacity, getting also more spectrum from our regulator so that we can build, higher capacity, higher speeds. So those, I would say, in terms of the growth perspective for the next 2 to 3 years is mobile money on one hand and mobile data on the other hand. Those two really should push the performance of the company further upwards on the trajectory that we are hoping for. You did not interrupt me.
Yes, thank you. My name is Julius Kafuluma. I work for Bukediti. I've been waiting behind there for the internal to give us something in Luganda. Twagala abantu bafa bali bategere biki bimwogerako lwalero. Last time you spoke a lot of English and our people failed to understand what you were doing. However, today I'm sure Anne you can be in position to do that. Thank you.
And
no pressure.
And Andrew, maybe before you provide the Luganda version, we take one or more 2 questions and we can close off with the Luganda version. Is that okay?
Abubeka Mwonga again from China Global Television to MTN, talking about mobile data. While we see more and more people connected to the mobile telephone network, the internet penetration is still low. Why is this? And we also understand that the smartphones are still costly for the average Ugandan. Is there a plan by the MTN maybe to make these smartphones cheaper? Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely spot on. You've given the answer to your own question in the second half of the question. So smartphone penetration is still relatively low, and the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle for that is actually the devices. If you don't have a smartphone, it's very cumbersome actually, or almost impossible to also think that you can consume a lot of data. You need a smartphone for you to experience really the true data experience. So what we have been doing over the last few months, and we're definitely going to do more in the next few months ahead of us, is device financing. We already have a product called Kabode, where you can buy a smartphone on a 6 months payment plan. We also have a partnership with Mkopa. It's a company that is also offering similar device financing opportunity. You buy your smartphone on a 6 or 9 months payment plan. So all of those initiatives, we're also giving some subsidy, by the way, on those devices. So all of those initiatives will definitely help in pushing the smartphone penetration. And then the more smartphones there are on the network, the more data consumption there is on the network. Also the cost of data will continuously to go down. So it is a bit of a chicken and the egg. The more data we have, the more affordable it will become, but the biggest hurdle remains the device penetration, and therefore we need to invest, and we are investing in device subsidy so that more and more and more Ugandans can have access to mobile data services.
Okay. I think that is it from the gallery. Mr. Mugembe and Ms. Juko, here we go. Time to show off your Luganda skills.
I will start and rely very heavily omwami Bugembe. So bassebo ne bannyabo tubaaniriza nnyo leero. Olwaleero lunaku lwa njawulo nnyo kuba nti lwe lunaku olusoose nga tuggulawo okutunda emigabo gya MTN Uganda. MTN Uganda mwenna mugimanyi abali eyo era abasinga mugikozesa nti okuva n'olwaleero okutuuka nga 22 November omwaka guno buli muntu ssekinoomu ali eyo aweereddwa omukisa okuba nga asobola okwegulira omugabo mu MTN. Nti bulijjo obaddeeyo ng'okozesa MTN naye kaakati olwaleero osobola okufuuka nannyini mu kitongole kya MTN. Ebyogeddwa bibadde bingi, nja kugezaako mbisengeke mpola mpola okutandika n'okuba nti nno emigabo gino gigenda kutundirwa ku katale akasinga obunene ku Stock Exchange or the Uganda Securities Exchange. Katale kano kajja kugulwawo kansooke mbawo ennaku z'omwezi muzitegeere. Tutandise leero nga 11 ogw'ekkumi omwaka guno 2021. Tujja kutunda emigabo gya MTN mpaka nga 22 November. Tujja kuba tuggulawo ate ku Stock Exchange okutunda nti bw'oba ozifunye ng'osazeewo okutunda otandika okutunda nga 6. Omwami omukulu wa